There is a specific kind of silence in professional golf. It's the silence of a player trying to bury every bit of human emotion deep inside their chest. Most players are masters of this concealment. But then, there's Billy Horschel. When you watch Billy, you aren't just watching a golf swing. You're watching a live broadcast of a man's internal nervous system. You see the joy, you see the agony, and most famously, you see the frustration. This has made him one of the most polarizing figures on the PGA Tour. To some, he is a refreshing burst of honesty in a sport that can feel robotic. To others, he's a cautionary tale of what happens when a player lets the fire burn a little too hot. But here is the question we rarely ask. In a sport that demands total restraint, is showing your true emotion a competitive disadvantage, or is it just easier for us to judge? Before we decide if Billy Horschel needs to calm down, we have to look at what that fire has actually built, and what happens to a man when the world decides his personality is his biggest flaw. Billy Horschel didn't stumble into this reputation. He didn't have one bad day at a major and suddenly become the guy who loses his temper. This has been the baseline since long before he was holding trophies on the PGA Tour. Back at the University of Florida, Billy was a force of nature. He was a 4-time All-American and a 2-time SEC Golfer of the Year. Even then, the Florida Gator in him was always on display. He played with a chip on his shoulder that suggested every shot was a personal battle between him and the turf. When he turned pro and the stakes got higher, the cameras stayed on him longer. And in golf, the longer a camera stays on you, the more likely it is to catch a human moment. For Billy, those moments often involve a quick word to himself, a sharp gesture, or just staring at the hole in total shock, like he can't believe what he just saw. We've seen it on the biggest stages. Think back to the 2022 Masters. During the third round, after a shot didn't go as planned, Horschel tossed his club in frustration. It wasn't a violent move, but at the Masters, where everything is so polished, that club toss stood out like a sore thumb. The media narrative shifted instantly. It wasn't just Billy is frustrated, it was Billy is losing it. But if you think about it, when a player is winning while being emotional, we call it competitive fire. If they are losing while being emotional, we call it a lack of discipline. So, which one is it for Horschel? If the critics are right, if emotion is a distraction, then the 2014 FedEx Cup playoffs shouldn't have been possible. Coming into the final stretch of that season, Horschel was a hot player, but what he did over those 3 weeks was historic. He finished tied for second at the Deutsche Bank Championship. Then he went to the BMW Championship and won. Then, with the highest possible pressure on his shoulders, he went to East Lake for the Tour Championship and won again, clinching the FedEx Cup. During that run, Billy was exactly who he is now. He was expressive, he was intense, and yet he was closing. He beat the best players in the world in back-to-back playoff events. Why then do we assume that a flatline pulse is the only way to win in golf? Look at the Ryder Cup, for example. We celebrate players like Ian Poulter or Patrick Reed for being fiery and passionate. We love the chest thumping and the screaming in match play. Yet, when Horschel shows that same intensity in a stroke play event, the conversation turns to mental health and emotional control. Speaking of the Ryder Cup, it's one of the most interesting footnotes in Billy's career. Despite his success, he's never played on a Ryder Cup team. He was a captain's pick for the 2022 U.S. President's Cup team at Quail Hollow, where he played 3 matches, but the Ryder Cup has eluded him. He has been incredibly candid about this too, speaking openly about the heartbreak of being left off the teams in 2014 and 2021. Is it possible that the reputation of being an emotional player has cost him this? Let's step away from the trophies for a second and look at the psychology. Why does golf, specifically, punish emotional honesty? In basketball or football, if you get angry, you can run harder. You can hit someone. You can channel that physical energy into the next play, which happens 3 seconds later. But golf has no clock. You hit a bad shot, and then you have to walk 300 yards in silence. You have 10 minutes to stew in your own failure before you're allowed to do anything about it. That silence is where the temper narrative is born. When the media saw Billy toss his club at the 2022 Masters, they basically used it as proof of his temper getting the best of him. They weren't just reporting an event, they were providing an explanation for his scorecard. But what if it's the opposite? Most guys bury their anger. They hide it in their jaw or their shoulders until they eventually snap hook a drive on the 14th hole because they're so tense. Billy doesn't do that. He vents in real time. He gets it out of his system so he can actually move on. Maybe the problem isn't his temper, it's just our bias. When Scottie Scheffler misses a putt, we say his alignment was off. When Billy misses the same putt and looks annoyed, we call it a mental breakdown. Are we actually seeing him struggle, or are we just seeing him be honest? If you need proof that the intensity is still a weapon, look no further than 2021. At the WGC Dell Technologies match play, Horschel faced off against the best in the business. He made it all the way to the final against Scottie Scheffler, perhaps the most composed player in modern golf. And Billy did what he does best. He scrapped. He fought. He showed every ounce of his desire to win, and he beat Scheffler 2-1. That win was a reminder that Billy's resume is undeniable. FedEx Cup champion, WGC winner, multiple PGA Tour titles. He has proven, on multiple occasions, that he can outduel the most composed players in the world while wearing his heart on his sleeve. And yet, the debate persists. Every time Billy has a rough week, the temper conversation returns, all because he refuses to fit the mold of the quiet professional. The truth is, Billy Horschel doesn't lose tournaments because he cares too much. You can't care too much about your livelihood. He loses when frustration shows up at the wrong time, the same way every other golfer on earth loses. The only difference is that Billy doesn't hide the process. You can't have the 2014 FedEx Cup champion without the guy who tossed his club at Augusta. They are the same person. The fire that fuels his best golf is the same fire that occasionally boils over. One is the price of the other. And in a sport where everyone else pretends to be fine, seeing a guy actually show how much he cares, that might be the most clutch thing on the leaderboard.